Morning and welcome back. So good morning again and morning to Seth Wyall aboard. And we're going to talk about obesity. And Seth, the floor is yours. How are you starting this thing with obesity?
All right, so good morning. Seth from Synergy TV, all of our viewers locally, internationally, and regionally. So obesity. Obesity is one of the fastest growing diseases plaguing the world today. It's actually reached a place of that we say the world is in a state of crisis due to obesity. And many people would say things like, with obesity, people just need to, eat more, eat less and exercise more. That's usually the goal behind it. But we're going to get a little bit more into obesity and understand that obesity is a hormonal thing, is a metabolic thing, is a fuel storage thing. So you'll get a little deeper understanding of it. So let's go to the first diagram and let's see what is obesity. Right? So obesity, excess body fat, not just body weight. So obesity is more to do with body composition. Most people just look at it as being heavy. It's not about being heavy because if you have more muscle mass, you would be heavier because muscle is denser. It has to do with body composition, how much fat you have in relation to muscle mass or what we call lean tissue. All right, so that's what obesity has to do with. So you have the healthy individual, right? As you would see there, then you have overweight individuals, then you have obese, and then you have severe obese or severely obese. All right, so let's go to the second diagram and let's get an understanding of not just the fat, but where the body stores fat. You have where fat is stored matters because you have subcutaneous fat and then you have visceral fat. Subcutaneous fat is the fat that is stored below the skin, right below the skin. That is what makes people look bigger. But then you also have visceral fat, which is the fat that stores around organs. Now, the visceral fat is actually worse and more detrimental to health. And there are certain things that could cause you to store visceral fat more than subcutaneous fat. And I'm saying that because not everybody that is obese is big. You can be what is called skinny obese, all right? You can be thin on the outside and fat on the inside, and the visceral fat is worse. So men have a higher tendency to store visceral fat than women, but also hormones can affect that. Stress can also cause the body to store more visceral fat, and that one is the worst. Of course, when you start taking better care of your health, that visceral fat is the one that the body starts to get rid of first. So even though it's worse, based on how you handle your body, you can get rid of it faster. But let's go to the other diagram and let's see some more. So when it comes to obesity, what causes this fat storage has to do with a lot of things that we put into the body. So of course, sugar and refined carbohydrates. Now, we have to understand that, and this is why I want people to get my book. We need to understand sugar in the full sense of the term. We know about the simple sugars and a lot of the refined carbs, but there are other things that fall into the sugar category that most people need to understand. And we don't have all the time to go into all the details with it, but this is why I encourage people to go out there, get my book. You'll get a full understanding so that you could be able to identify all forms of sugar. But when you consume sugars, that causes your blood glucose levels to rise. So as blood glucose level increase, keep in mind there is always going to be glucose in your bloodstream. But when it rises, your insulin levels start to rise because it causes the pancreas to respond to release insulin. All right? And as we see at the bottom there, food can push glucose up because there is always glucose in your bloodstream. We need to remember that. All right? But when your glucose level is high or you're getting glucose spikes, the pancreas now would have to release more insulin. And insulin is a very interesting hormone. Now, the next slide we're going to go to, we are going to see something here that when it comes to insulin, you have to understand the opposite of insulin, which is the next component, which has to do with glucagon. So let's go to the next diagram, and we'll see here insulin versus glucagon. So insulin stores fuel and glucagon releases fuel. So what happens is insulin would transport the glucose from your bloodstream into your cells. It could also store it as glycogen in your liver, which is excess glucose. It will store it as glycogen. And if there is even more glucose, the rest would be stored as fat. insulin is not something bad. Insulin is needed by the body. Now, it doesn't just transport glucose alone. There are also proteins that is also insulin would also transport, because you need certain proteins and stuff to get into your cells and so forth. All right, but sugar is what would cause insulin spikes. Now, glucagon is what works in opposite. When glucose levels are low, glucagon is what would cause the glycogen from the liver to be converted back into glucose, and then the body can utilize that for energy. So that would reduce the glycogen storage, and that could even help the body to release energy from fat, because as glucagon level goes up when insulin levels are down, that would cause the body to then take fat and convert fat into fuel. But high insulin levels would be problematic for the body, and what you consume can contribute to that. But there are other things that could also contribute to insulin levels being high as well. So let's go to the other diagram and let's see this here. All right? So high insulin equals storage mode. Insulin would store as glycogen, and then excess sugars, excess glucose would also store as fat. And then the fat would also block the release of glucose from the fat cells, because fat can be broken down into through the lipolysis system back into glycerol and fatty acids. So chronic high insulin levels promote storage. Now let's go again to the next diagram. So obesity isn't just triggered only from foods, because you have other factors that can trigger high insulin levels and could cause insulin resistance as well. So you know food as one. At the bottom we have chronic stress. So stress would also activate the sympathetic nervous system. When your sympathetic nervous system activates, that increases blood glucose levels, and of course higher blood glucose levels would also trigger higher insulin levels. But we also have in the center there low salt. Low salt. So if salt levels drop too low, that would also activate your sympathetic nervous system. As we see, stress physiology also affects metabolism. So it's not just about, hey, you just have to eat less in order to avoid obesity. You have to understand certain things with regards to the metabolic system, and these are things that a lot of people aren't aware of. So your metabolic state is affected by the food you eat, by your stress levels, and mineral deficiencies as well.
You Are Not Sick, You Are Malnourished is the top-selling consignment book at RIK bookstores nationwide every month so far this year. Get your copy locally at RIK bookstores across Trinidad, Nelson's Bookstore in Tobago, internationally on Amazon for paperback, and on Gumroad for the digital copy.
Not everybody know about those other factors. Most people are just looking at it from the food factor, all right? But the stress factor and the low mineral factor, these activate sympathetic nervous system, and these things can cause other problems. Now let's go again to the other diagram. So when we understand these factors, then we would understand what we call the insulin resistance loop. So you have where the glucose levels spike. That could be caused from consuming stuff that contains high amounts of sugar, right? Consuming the wrong foods. You could have stressful situations that can also cause the body to overproduce glucose, and then you have mineral deficiencies that can also cause activation of the sympathetic nervous system, which could also cause overproduction of that. That would cause insulin levels to rise. When insulin levels rise, now your cells become more insulin resistant. When your cells become more insulin resistant, that causes your pancreas to then release more insulin. More insulin encourages more fat storage, and then the whole cycle continues. So it's this obesity loop that is taking place, right? So a lot of people are stuck and locked into this loop because there are certain things that they don't understand. And that's why I tell people we need to educate ourselves in order to break free of diseases, and that is what is lacking. This is one of the reasons why I publish my book, why I do my consultations, why I have my nutritional therapy program, because a lot of people think it is very easy to do what I'm doing. No, it is not. You have to take all of these things into consideration when you are guiding people's diet. Not just one aspect alone. It's just not just switch to eating this alone. There's a whole system you have to understand. So let's go to the other diagram. Right? So we have to do what we call is the metabolic switch. How can we get the body from a state of storing fat to a state of burning fat? Well, the first step is one has to lower blood glucose. You have to get blood glucose levels low. When you get blood glucose levels low, insulin levels are going to drop. When insulin levels drop now, the body is going to release glucagon, which is going to cause the stored glucose in the liver, called glycogen, to be released, and that would be converted back into glucose. That is called glycogenolysis, right? Glycogenolysis causes the stored glycogen to be converted back into glucose, all right? And then when that diminishes, you have what we call lipolysis, which is where the body now takes the fat and breaks the fat down into glycerol and fatty acids, and then the body now converts that into ketones. And then ketones is what your body can use as an efficient source of fuel. Now, for those that have my book, you'll understand that ketones doesn't cause any glycation.
You're getting me exhausted. I burn me, you know.
And that's why I tell people.
Because this whole process, that seemed like a very... So my body in a state of it's in a loop then?
A lot of people's bodies is in a loop, right? A lot of people's bodies is in a loop. But that's why I tell people...
This is what I gather in here, you know. But go ahead.
And that's why I tell people, what I do might seem simple when I give instructions, but there's a lot of things I have to think of and consider and become aware of. So when I tell people, you know, I have my daily questionnaire for people to fill out, because I need to track to see how the body is operating, the certain biomarkers. I need to look at certain things to understand where or which metabolic system is activated and what needs to be adjusted in order to activate the right system so that the body can burn fat. It is not as simple as you think. So people need to be coached and guided, properly re-educated in order to get over this obesity epidemic. And this is why I will bring back up this, the three pillars. The three pillars, right? So remember the three pillars of health that I showed last week? Let's go to that one here now. The three pillars of health that starts with knowledge. Knowledge, first and foremost, right? So knowledge, discipline, and consistency. Know what your body requires, all right? Without knowledge, you could have plenty discipline and be very consistent at the wrong thing. And this is what the world is doing today. People are disciplined and consistent, but have the wrong information, so that disciplined and consistent running in the wrong direction. With zeal, you know, you have a biblical passage, zeal without knowledge, right? Zeal without knowledge is very problematic, and that is where the world is today. So what I am trying to do, this is one of the reasons why I wrote my book, why I do my consultations and re-education session, is to increase people's knowledge so that they could now properly apply it with the discipline that they have and be consistent, but in the right thing. But you need that knowledge. What I'm doing is not a joke. People will say, oh, but your consultation's expensive and it's only talking. Just knowledge is more powerful than you think. And sitting down with me for an hour and a half, right, is a lot of knowledge I impart with you. And that is also a lot of my time that I'm taking to spend with you, to educate you.
Hour and a half is plenty, boy.
I'm telling you, plenty times it goes over that, right? Plenty times it go over that. Because you need to know, right? But a lot of people want quick fixes. They want to look for a product. People still calling me and ask me what product I have for this, what product I have for that, right? What I could take for this, what I could take for that. It is a process. You need to learn and educate yourself, all right? So go out there, get my book, contact me, book an appointment, come and see me, do a re-education session, get onto my nutritional therapy program, and you will reap the benefits. There is no products involved. There is no supplements involved. Those things come in when you refuse to educate yourself. So they're just basically, I would say, taking advantage of a situation when knowledge is lacking. All right?
All right. I learned plenty there, you know. I started to understand what's going on here, you know. All right. Well, that is, of course, Seth Weil about. Like I said, you could call him 279-3935, or you can WhatsApp him on 7611952, and you can book an appointment today with the Holistic Health Clinic. It's all about nutritional therapy. No supplements, no drugs, nothing like that. Nutritional therapy. You become what you consume. You understand? It's what you consume at the end of the day is how your body responds to what you consume. So get started with that re-education today. We're going to take the final break. When we come back, we have a few birthdays we'll wrap things up with.
Are you tired of managing symptoms without understanding why your body is breaking down? Seth Weil's Holistic Health Clinic provides consultation and re-education sessions followed by nutritional therapy programs designed to address the root causes of chronic disease. The clinic works with clients in Trinidad and Tobago and internationally, helping people rebuild the body through correct nutrition, not drugs, supplements, herbs, detoxes, injections, or quick fixes. Seth Weil is also the author of You Are Not Sick, You Are Malnourished, a powerful health book that has been the top-selling book on consignment at RIK bookstores nationwide every month since entering the stores. If you're struggling with cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, autoimmune issues, fertility challenges, digestive problems, or other chronic condition, book a consultation and re-education session today. Purchase the book at RIK bookstores nationwide, Nelson's Bookstore in Tobago, Amazon, or Gumroad. Visit sethweilclinic.com or call or WhatsApp 279-3935 or 761-1952. Seth Weil's Holistic Health Clinic, rebuilding the body, reversing disease through nutritional therapy.